Red Ray Gun Limited presents
The Benji and Nick Show. Hello. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good day. Good evening. Good afternoon. I can't believe
He ruined it for himself
Goodness.
there, Loch Ness.
Oh.
You ruined it for yourself, Nick. God.
Wow, my eye wasn't on the ball. Well, that was the Loch Ness game. It's not a game and it's not about Loch Ness.
But this is the Benji and Nick Show, your number one podcast in all of the world for cult television and vintage TV and stuff like that. I mean, I don't think we'd be number one for, say, I don't know, medicinal DIY medicine.
We could say dysentery from
dysentery. It could be dysentery.
Oh, God.
No, some would say some of the things we talk about here are verbal dysentery. But no, we talk about old television, TV from the past, TV you might remember, TV you might want to forget. We go through it and make it, see if it's worth you listening or watching it, quite frankly, because sometimes life's too short. I mean, we've got more time on our hands now in the lockdown, but at the same time, no, neither have I. But at the same time, if you find yourself sitting around and, we'll make it worth it. Today, Nick, what are we covering?
Well, what we're covering, I would just say that I'm not Benji.
And I'm not Nick.
And what we're covering is a very significant... we'll leave Shelley Dean, our reviewer from across the seas, who will be joining us later. That's America, in case you didn't know what I meant by that. It's a very significant police procedural show in British television history because it was the first time that there was an attempt to portray policemen as less than ideal. It's not an anti-police show at all. It's very much on the side of the police, but everyone's shown with their failings. It's very, very kitchen sink, very
gritty,
natural. Yeah, that's the word. So we'll be the first ever episode of Z Cars, which was anyway, I shan't say any more. Just want to thank people if they're following us on Patreon. You can follow us on Patreon, patreon.com. Thank you very much. And you can subscribe to us, and for your extra coppers, Zcars coppers, you get all sorts of extra material. What sort of thing, Benji?
Oh, you get all sorts. You get to view us. You get to see me doing that now. And if you're listening, you won't know what I did. See, that's part of it, you see. As well as that, you also get access to the Discord. You get loads of discounts on merchandise at nicholasbriggs.com. Head over there to the store. And that's not just on Benji and Nick Show items as well. That's on loads of stuff there. And believe me, it's an Aladdin's cave of stuff.
And there's TV dinners?
TV dinners, yeah. We talk about our favourite foods and stuff each week. One of us, we give you a recipe and tell you why it might be worth you making it, or it might not be, depending on
it's probably not,
what
but it's
you
quite
think,
fun to listen to.
But it's quite fun to listen to, and it's actually quite fun to make as well. We enjoy it. And as well as that, we also have the after party, which is an extinction event. An extinction event where we wipe out the entire Earth. No, it's after the podcast. We just carry on talking, really. Normally a question asked by one of you lovely people, and so if you want to support us in any way, that would be fantastic. It helps
extra
us
commentaries.
Do loads of extra stuff. Extra commentaries, yes, we're getting to the point now where we're going to get an email telling us off for talking about this, so maybe we'll stop, who knows.
Yes. What I was fiddling around with there, if you heard any noise in the background, or if indeed you're watching this, you saw me messing around, I'm just trying to find my other computer, which has got the emails on. Emails sent to podcast at nicholasbriggs.com. I'll read the first one out. It's really long. Yes. Here it goes. Okay. It's from Adam Turnbull, and he said, would you consider talking about the iconic TV show I, Claudius?
Oh,
that's it. That's the whole email.
well, I mean, I would consider it, yes.
Yes, I would. I
would do it. I thought it was really annoying. I thought I had it on DVD. And I had this the other day, actually. I was cleaning out a DVD cover, and I thought, I really fancy watching some I, Claudius. So I was looking through, and I discovered, to my horror, that I didn't have I, Claudius on DVD. I, in fact, had, I think it was called The Romans, some Sky thing. Not the one, not The Romans that you're thinking of, the older thing. No, this was like something made years later for Sky Television or something.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't the same, and I'm not going to watch it. So in the bin.
Is the Romans the one with all the sort of funky 70s music, the original one? Or no, that was the Cleopatras.
That was very odd, wasn't it? The Cleopatras.
With all sort of digital video effects go. It's when they just got that machine called Quantel, and they were just sort of, you press this button and it turns something into a barrel and makes it roll away, and they were using effects like that.
None of that has been retained, has it, in television now? None of us bothers with that. Like, it's funny, isn't it, how we go the opposite way? We can do incredible effects like that now, but we just don't bother.
No, it seems too ostentatious, I think. People are much happier with a simple dissolve or a wipe. Wipes are still quite fashionable, aren't they?
I remember I've got it on videotape, actually, from when I was a kid at CBBC, where they were talking about that. They were saying how wonderful it is. And he's there going, and if I click my fingers, and then the whole of the screen goes, it goes away, and then I click it again, and it comes back. And I remember just thinking, hey, at the time, thinking like, this is incredible.
And then about a week later, the nation went. Anyway,
I've had enough of this now. It's boring.
Only useful for Top of the Pops, and then they cancelled Top of the Pops, so that was the end of that. What's that next email there that I sent over?
Go on here from Chris David, who is one of our exclusive Loch Ness patrons. That's right. They're the creme de la creme, the top category in our Patreon. We're so grateful for them. They get a monthly meeting with us as well, which is super cool. We had great fun on the latest one, which you'll hear a little bit more about later on. But it's hilarious because it's sort of just it's as both Chris and our other Loch Ness patron says, it's like an extension of Carl. Well, I wasn't sure if we were naming everybody. You see, that's why I kept quiet then, because I remember Shelley said, I don't know if we were or not. Who knows? Anyway, Carl, who's lovely, by the way, and is listening. Hello, Carl. I hope you don't mind us mentioning you by name. But yes, we were just... It was like an extension of the podcast, wasn't it, really?
It was.
We talk back.
And it doesn't get recorded, so no one ever hears it.
It's magic, you see. Absolute magic.
It's a moment in time.
We had great fun, but this one here is from Chris. Chris says, "Oh man, I'm so sorry on behalf of Americans that you had to suffer this." This is, we'll find out. Like Shelley, I have huge fondness for the Van Dyke family. This is, of course, talking about my mother, the car. In hopes of some redemption, you might want to add an episode of Dyke Van Dyke. Oh, the Dyke Van Dyke show? Surely it's the Dick Van Dyke show.
Yeah, I think it must be the Dick Van Dyke show.
Must be a typo here. Dyke Van Dyke. Sounds like a very strange show. It's a future listing. One of the greatest American comedies of all time. It was created by Carl Reiner and responsible for making Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore a household name. There we go. Jerry shows up in four episodes, the first being part of a two-part story where he comes in as his brother to Dick Van Dyke's character. You can find it on YouTube. There we go. I'll have a quick peek at that one. Gosh. What year would that
My
have been?
Mother
That's
the Car.
very early on.
I think the thing we learnt with My Mother the Car, I thought that Shelley put across really well. She said it gets referenced in a lot of other American things as basically an example of how badly things can go. At least it's not My Mother the Car, that kind of thing. And we will have heard that, but it would have made no sense to us at all. So we wouldn't. So now it'll be interesting to see how many times we pick up references to My Mother the Car or not. Right. The final email here is from Neil Matthews. And it's entitled Psycho Sylv. Hi both. I enjoyed your chat about Psycho, in which a major character dies within 20 minutes. Yeah, we talked about that, didn't we? Naturally, this made me think of the Doctor Who TV movie. Perhaps Sylvester McCoy's Doctor should have died and or regenerated in a shower. Doctor Who does Dallas crossed with Psycho. No? Okay, just me then. Best wishes, Neil Matthews. That's really lovely, Neil. Thank you so much for that. Now, I'm going to you can witness me doing a bit of housekeeping here. I'm going to put these in the used podcasts folder. Isn't that interesting? You're getting an insight into the amazing
mind of the man himself.
Yeah, there he is. I put that one in there. So, have you got anything to add, Benji, before we invite Shelley in?
I think it's just time for Shelley to come in, to be honest. We get cracking on Z-cars, as our friends in America call it.
I don't think they do. I think they just don't.
I like to think they do.
Oh, I see. I'd like to think they do. Right. This will be me inviting her. Hello. Shelley.
Hello, boys.
How goes it?
It goes.
Excellent.
It's going. Yes.
Good
Things
news.
are moving along. Life is starting to return-ish.
Is it really?
I'd like to believe so. I think it's one of those things, if you put it out into the universe, it will come back and actually happen, manifestation. So if I keep saying life is normal, then eventually life will be normal again. So.
Wow, that's an interesting theory.
Magic.
I'm going to say...
Come on, I have to have something. It's either that or me just being this depressed pile of pajamas on the couch watching.
Yeah, no, you
Big
absolutely.
Right, don't lay that on me. Okay, fair point. Yeah, I'd like to say life is a blancmange. Let's see if that happens.
There you go. It's all about energy, the universe. I'm in the universe with my space background I've got.
I love the way it moves with you.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is when it moves, it looks surprisingly
convincing. Do you see the lights
convincing
flashing
as well.
behind it?
Yeah,
subtly?
it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really.
I got my little setup going here.
Yeah,
You should
it's
see the
better
rest
than
of it. It
mine.
looks
Mine's
like
just a
bomb
boring
went
room.
off.
Me and my cat ears.
Your cat ears.
I've not got anything.
Well, I'm moving my old ass soon, so I'll sort out a nicer setup in the future.
Just for those who are not certain, Benji said house and not ass. Okay.
Yes,
right.
quite.
I'm
Well,
moving my old ass.
We're doing Z cars today, obviously, Shelley.
But first.
But you've got something to do first.
But
I was going to do it. It's all right.
Oh, I thought I got to cut you off before you get there.
We're doing
wait, I'm going to
Z-Cars,
stop you right there.
But we're going to do something first.
Can I stop you right there?
I'm going to stop you right there. This week's Patron Papers. Yes, we're still going with that title. If you have a much catchier, more fabulous one, please feel free to let us know.
Alliteration is amazing.
I liked it, yeah.
That was what I came up with when I had to come up with one. Anywho, I bring to you the story of a lovely lady, Fatina Issa, who I have learned is nominated for a Benji Award. What is a Benji Award? Yes. It is the annual award ceremony for the Universal Yoga Association.
Yeah.
And this nomination is for her groundbreaking insights into the meditative qualities of death metal, which we discussed previously.
Oh yeah, we certainly did.
So this nomination is new, so we're going to wish her the best of luck on winning.
Fatina.
Well, I'm sure you'll be absolutely head of the gang, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Top of the pile.
I'd like to see who else is up for the award as well.
Oh yeah.
Do you know, when I was a teenager, whenever I had a horrible hangover, the only way I could stop the headache was to just listen to death metal. Always worked. Worked. Yeah.
Right.
There you go.
I once had a physiotherapist say to me, what was I said? Oh, that's right. She said to me, now, if you get a terrible headache, the best thing to do is to lean forward and pull your head like that until there's a real pain in the back of your neck, and then that's so painful it distracts you from your headache. She was, of course, joking, but she had me right until the last minute. I was going, yeah, and then what?
Yeah, and then what? Yeah, okay. Well, we have also learned that Neil Allen is working on his newest self-help book.
Yes.
Which is titled Building a Ladder That Won't Catch on Fire. Climbing up and out of a volcano.
Amazing.
Because if you remember, his last book was about diving into the volcano. That was the motivation.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yes. So it's very inspirational. So we're looking forward to learning about that next step.
Definitely.
And then coincidentally, Michael Young is also writing a book.
Is he really?
Well, there's like a theme here.
It is. It seems to be. It just so happened to work out that way. This one is going to be a cookbook. And he is writing on how to make the perfect cup of coffee for visiting extraterrestrials.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it seems that they like a bit of pterodactyl milk in it, which is a taste they acquired from their first trips here to Earth.
How'd you get it now?
Oh, you can go down to Safeways and get it for about 50p.
There's a pterodactyl farm, yeah. Nick.
Why didn't I think this through?
Da-doy.
Da-doy.
So anyhow, that's what we've got for our Patron Papers this week. And speaking of patrons, Patreon, when you sign up to support us on Patreon, you do get lots of perks. I know Nick has probably mentioned this at the top of the show.
We've done it, yeah. We did a segment earlier.
Extra audios, videos, discounts on merchandise over on nicholasbriggs.com, which you can buy even if you're not a patron.
You can even get this candle. Look, you can get that.
Here's the best.
Here's no, you don't get the candle. I lied.
And you get to have a monthly Zoom chat with the three of us.
Yeah.
Which we've done a few times, and it has been described as being like inside the show.
That's true.
So, during this last Zoom chat we had one of our patrons decided to throw his hat into the ring and challenge both Nick and Benji to a game of Loch Ness Live. So that patron is Carl Scott, and he took advantage of one of the perks. That's one of the perks of being a patron on the Loch Ness tier. And we recorded it for posterity. So, Nick, here it is.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this special edition of the Loch Ness Lounge. We have a special guest competitor here. Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Hello, my name is Carl.
Okay. Have you been preparing yourself for this one? Have you been priming and ready? We're expecting a good fight.
More than I care to admit.
It's a good answer. Well, in that case, then we've got our two referees with us here, Shelley Dean and our good friend Chris as well. Chris David. There we go. So, without further ado, I think it's time. So. Got to clear the throat, you see. You've got to make sure, you've got the airways flow for this one. So,
well, look, Carl's having a drink there.
Oh, that's a real
apple cider vinegar.
Here we go. So, good morning.
Good day.
Good night.
Good evening.
Good potatoes.
Good boy.
Paul, that's a good one. Good wallpaper.
Good dog.
Good to be here.
Good gravy.
Good heavens.
Good times.
Oh, close. Goodness gracious.
Good Lord.
Good tidings.
Nah.
Hey! It's one for the home side. One for the home side.
You've got to say goodness, Carl.
Goodness.
Loch Ness. There we go. There we go.
Thank you,
but
Carl.
I have to say, you put up a very good fight, actually.
Thank you.
What do you do when there's three people? I just crashed and burnt and was out of it, wasn't I?
That kind of works. I feel like that's quite a good little rule for multi-nessing. That if somebody can't ness any further, then perhaps they leave until the final Loch Ness is crowned.
So, Carl, how was it for you?
That was exciting. That really was, because I was hoping you two wouldn't use one of the three that I had lined up, because I was trying to think of all the ones you've said before, and I can't recall anyone. I mean, I know someone said good gravy a couple of weeks ago, but good boy and good dog.
They're
and
brilliant
good times.
Ones.
Yeah, which ones that I haven't usually hear. So I was keeping those aside, but I couldn't think of a stronger fourth one.
Well, but those are three very strong ones, and also I would say as well, they're three ones which I'm really surprised, because they're quite natural things to say, aren't they? Good boy, good dog, good times. But yeah, why?
Those have we?
I have to say there, you've done a tremendous job, and you've certainly you've raised the bar quite high for anybody else to try and encroach on the Loch Ness trophy.
And of course, when it's just you and Nick, now it'll be even harder, because you've got those three to add to the mix as well.
Yeah. This is it. You've created a problem now. This is it. It's all gonna. It's gonna be. Now it's a funny one, because some days when you play the Loch Ness game, you can be really prepared and on it. You can be you can be ready for victory. You can feel quietly confident. And other days, if you're tired, or if something's on your mind, you can just get defeated so easily and quickly. It's very, it is interesting, isn't it?
It is very interesting, because I've been having that game in my head for the last couple of weeks, and it's just fun. But coming to the crunch, you just get a bit of stage fright. The brain stops working. But no, it was an experience.
The Loch Ness experience.
The Loch Ness experience on a Sunday morning.
Very impressive performer there, beaten by.
Thank you.
But Benji mostly wins at that game. It usually takes me by surprise. We start recording the podcast, and I think, "Oh my God, it's that!" I've forgotten that we're meant to be doing it. Anyway,
the way I look at it, it was a top 2 finish.
Yeah.
Hey, there we go. There we go.
Well,
Chris, what do you think? What is your verdict on the game? Do you think it was a good game, a fair game?
Yeah, I think it was good. It's the only quibble like we kind of had. It's like you did kind of say something before good on one of the rounds.
That troubled me. He did it about 3 times actually, but Benji's
really?
Yeah, he makes up rules as he goes along. You were giving a little comment, and which gave you thinking time, which I think is unfair. And if we were under heavy scrutiny by the Loch Ness authorities.
Well, since this was the first time that we have done this with multiple people, then I think we're going to get more discerning as it goes along. And
well, I would say, you know, I don't realize I do that because I like to give people feedback on their impressive words. However, what I will say is having received this important advice from the chair, I have to say I will in future. I will remember from that chair, that very chair. I will remember this and apply it. I will amend my future play to make sure this never happens again.
Yes, I mean, consider this a warning.
Consider this one Ness on the.
Do better, Benji. Just do better.
You got one penalty. He's been given the.
It's a yellow flag instead of a red flag. You get.
It's a yellow flag. Yeah, he's been given one yellow Nessie. One Nessie.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Carl, and thank you for joining us in the Loch Ness Lounge.
Well, there you are. I mean, it was controversial, I think. I feel that Benji needs to be taken to task over his policy.
I think I was taken to task.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. I mean, but further castigated and made to feel ostracised.
Publicly shamed.
Publicly shamed.
With head shaving.
But in your
naked...
favour, you weren't doing it on purpose. You were trying to just be supportive.
But, you know,
and that's the kind of nice guy you are.
Retrospectively, if it means a victory, then I guess it was worth it in the end.
He wins by any means. Yeah.
Whatever works.
Kill him with kindness, that's what I say.
You keep prodding him with a knife, and I thought that was unfair. I don't know how you did it over the internet.
You don't want to say that word, do you? You don't want to say that word.
Yeah.
Very threatening over Zoom.
Thank you, Carl. So, we've mentioned already at the top of the show that we're talking about Z cars. Shelley, what was your research unearthed about Z cars?
I actually had to write out Z.
Yeah.
Instead of just the letter Z because I kept saying Z cars.
See, so I told you, didn't I say?
Yeah.
Said America.
Do we know why it's called Z cars, by the way?
Yes, we do.
I do too, but
go ahead, Benji. You can say it.
Oh, thank you very much.
Since I'm going to be talking for the next 20 minutes.
well, it comes down to the actual make of the cars at the time. So, Police Force, Ford Zephyr, Ford Zodiac were used. So, of course, they got the nickname of Z cars, Z Victor 1 and Z Victor 2. Interesting other thing I found out actually about this is that, of course, we know this. If you know Doctor Who and you're like us, a bit nerdy, you'll know that old black and white cameras didn't show up. White objects didn't show up particularly well. They created quite a lot of glare on the lens, and so actually the cars used in this were painted yellow, so they showed up a nice white apparently on the camera.
I did not know that. I'm finding that disproportionately fascinating.
But of course it does make sense, does it, when you think about it? Like for the example, you know, was it the TARDIS console was green, wasn't it?
Was it green? I thought it was blue, but yeah, you're right, green. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, there we go. That was
Patrick Troughton's shirt was blue, wasn't it?
His shirt was blue, yes. So I just thought it was meant to be blue, quite frankly, but I never really thought about it, but I guess it could have just been.
So it showed up white?
Yeah, it showed up white. It was light blue, yeah.
Interesting.
But then, of course,
that makes me think of the movie Psycho when they were filming the infamous shower scene.
Yes,
it was chocolate syrup that they used as the blood going down the drain, because obviously, what was the point of using something red? Because I guess for those reasons, it would show up in a different way.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
mean, it'd be awful if they'd made it in colour and there was chocolate syrup going down the plug hole. That would have been a whole different kind of crime, wouldn't it? Do you remember the Psycho Poo shower
scared
scene?
her a lot.
Psycho's dysentery phase. Dear, oh dear. Oh dear.
Oh, gosh. Anyway,
Trust breaks
sorry.
the lower the tone.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
you said it all. I was just suggesting it, and then you just, Oh, no, I did say poo,
No,
didn't I? Sorry. Sorry, I'm even
Don't try to
forgetting.
deflect onto
Yes,
us.
I just,
Yeah, stop deflecting your
I just
poo on
dumped that
everybody
one
else.
and then run away. Yeah, okay.
But anyhow, so Z Cars is a British television police procedural series
Correct.
centered on the work of police car patrols. Produced by the BBC, it debuted in January of 1962 and ran sort of all the way through to 1978. A total of 801 episodes were produced, which absolutely
innit?
boggled my mind.
Yeah.
We watched the very first episode, which was called Four of a Kind, and it's basically the setting up the story of how the Z-Carbs, what the show was going to be about. It was Detective Inspector Barlow establishes a new crime patrol to fight the growing tide of crime in the fictional town of Newtown in northern England. So that was the episode that we watched, and I'm left with lots of questions.
Okay, well, do you want to ask them or do you want to talk
The
about your
questions
reaction?
are, this was such just a set up a show. The episode that it didn't have any kind of police drama. It was just saying, here's these characters, here's how we're going to get them to come join this unit, and there it goes.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then
I
there was
suppose it
apparently some humor in it. There was some spousal abuse in it
Yes,
that we were
God.
supposed to laugh about. So there was some stuff that I was just, and I had issues with understanding a lot of it, and I don't.
Yeah.
Yes, because of accents, but also because very mush mouth.
Gritty, real sort of kitchen sinky, though, isn't it? I suppose is the idea. That
And
they
the
were going
dialect,
for.
they were speaking in a sort of Liverpudlian
sort of-
dialect,
Yeah,
so they
but
were
I
using
understood
interesting.
most of it.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of the characters. They just were very lazy in the way they spoke, and it was just, so it was like I was already struggling.
Who in particular did you find it difficult to understand?
In the I don't know anybody's names.
Is it Lynch, the Irish guy?
I think Lynch, the really, really bad teeth. Really, really,
I think they all had
really
bad teeth
but
because it
no,
was the early 60s.
Particularly bad teeth. They were sitting in the car. It was him, the main guy, and him. I guess they were at the after the funeral, which I didn't understand that whole setup scene.
Do you
The
not understand
very
that?
opening scene. Well, somebody died, and I guess he was waiting for the bad guy to come.
Well, that's it.
Okay, well,
And he was.
There wasn't
obviously-
anything difficult to understand.
He was their sort of chief, wasn't he? I believe, or certainly a high-ranking police officer.
Oh, I didn't
They
get that.
both- Well, I got the vibe that he was kind of somebody that they
Nothing.
really respected and worked
It's
with.
another police officer. The
Yeah.
fact that a police officer
so were
was
they
killed.
waiting for the bad guy to show up?
Barlow was, but the guy, no, and he jumped on his mate thinking that
Right.
he was him.
He was
but
the bad
wa-
guy.
Yeah, and he
but
wasn't.
why is that? I mean, I know that the idea is people who murder people show up at the funeral and pretend
They
whatever,
always
but
revisit
it
the
was
scene.
afterwards. I don't know. So it was just a weird entrance to a TV show, I felt.
It was, I think.
Because they never followed up with, or maybe they do. I don't know.
No, they don't follow up with that. What they say that they found the guy who did it, and that he's mentally ill, and so that he would not be hanged, and that's what they keep going on about. They won't top him.
So yeah, I
which is
guess
what-
I missed all of
Yeah.
that conversation.
Yeah, they repeated that about 3 times in different circumstances. But maybe
Okay.
did you not know the phrase "top" meaning to kill? To top someone.
I kind of
He's
I
topped
know
himself.
it, but I must not have understood
Yeah.
it while watching it.
Yeah.
It was
yeah.
a struggle. It really was. I was praying, I wish I could just find online the script, that I could just read it and know what they're actually saying, because it was not a great audio, to be honest.
But it was on YouTube, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
watched the same audio, and I have to
Yeah.
say I had no trouble understanding anyone at all.
I
You're
think
British.
we're British, but also I
I'm
think
not.
we are.
Yeah, that's
But also
incredible,
we're
isn't it?
we're kind of institutionalized. We understand it now. There are so many different accents that are on television all the time for us over here that we're just used to it. But of course, you can imagine to an extent that maybe somebody, a southerner, in the country 1962 watching this might have actually had the same problem themselves, because it's not even a in terms of accents, it's not even a sort of, dare I say it, softer sort of northern accent.
No, they went for total authenticity, didn't they?
Gritty and real, and it's and I
which
think
made it very a trailblazing thing back in those days.
Well, almost, dare I say it, paved the way for kind of what we got with Coronation Street, which is more realism as opposed to, it's starting the sort of revolution of real kitchen sink based, almost, gritty realism, not dressed up. This is how it is sort of stuff. But I can understand Shelley, and it's quite talky as well, so I can imagine it might have
Quite
actually been hard, yeah,
And fast talky.
fast talky, but some cracking bits of telly in there. Some really good bits of telly. Also, interestingly enough, did you know that the young lad in it was Davy Jones from the Monkees?
Yeah.
He was a boy.
The boy who comes into the police station.
That was Davy Jones.
Yeah,
Yep.
Incredible, isn't it? I knew
that's
that. I recognised
hilarious.
him. I didn't have to look it up. I thought, that's Davy Jones. for
I thought
goodness
he
sake.
was an attractive young man, but I didn't. Oh, that's funny.
That's just
Wow.
the child. He was a
Yeah.
child. Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible, isn't it? Just having a little
Wow.
role. And then I think I remembered hearing him in an interview saying that I was in the first episode of Z-Cars. I think he used to speak about that. Yeah.
Well, I guess that would be something to be proud of. I mean, the show ran 801 episodes.
It's a huge British TV
amazing.
institution.
And for a
uh,
long time.
And the people who wrote for it went on and wrote other great dramas. And also, Z-Cars did have at least one spin-off called Softly Softly.
Yeah.
And then there was
Barlow
Softly
at
Softly,
Large.
Barlow at Large, and Softly Softly
Jack
Task
the Ripper
Force.
and Second Verdict, apparently. So quite
Sorry,
a few.
say those. I spoke over you and I didn't hear you.
Sorry, there was Softly Softly,
Yeah.
Barlow at Large,
Yeah.
Jack the Ripper.
Really?
Yes, it says here, a 6-part BBC police procedural made in 1973, in which the case of the Jack the Ripper murders is reopened and analysed by Detective Chief Superintendents Barlow and Watt.
Good Lord.
Yeah, can imagine that one round a boardroom table. We'll do that. And also Second Verdict, 1976, which combines genres of police procedural and docudrama. Dramatised documentaries in which classic criminal cases and unsolved crimes were reappraised by fictional police officers.
I'm sure Softly
Wow.
Softly. I'm sure Softly Softly had a spin-off into Softly Softly Task Force.
It
didn't
did, yes,
Yeah.
you're completely correct. 69 to 76, which is rare. That's quite a long run for that as well.
These were shows that, as a kid were just on there. Everyone spoke about Z-Cars and stuff. And I inevitably ended up watching it by default and had, I was a kid and it didn't really speak to me, but it was like part of the TV landscape, and your parents would watch it and your grandparents would watch it. Everyone, it's like Dixon of Dock Green, which is another police show from the time, which was far more gentle. They were just the shows that everyone watched on the very few channels we had,
Yeah.
But I sense, Shelley, that, you're just not connecting with this at all. You found it really...
I think if I were to watch an episode where there's actually a storyline, an actual plot, that I could get into it, it was just very jagged for me, as far as we're learning who these people are, but then it ends. So then only watching one episode is kind of the problem, I think.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's not that I didn't like it. It's,
Well, watch another one then.
That's
so-
the answer, yeah.
I don't know.
went
Is
on
the
from-
second episode there? I don't think the second episode
There are,
exists.
there's less than half of all the original episodes that survived.
And you
because
can't
it's the
you
same-
can't buy those black and white ones. They're not available anywhere.
Well, they taped over all of them. That's the
Yeah.
BBC just did what the BBC does, which is
Yeah. But
Say,
what I
I'm
knew,
You, there are
Done.
plenty of good 1970s cars on there, which
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
great fun.
well, you
I
can
love-
buy those. You can buy
You can
those.
get, okay, you can get there. Well, there we go then.
But no, the black and white ones that do exist, there is not a volume of black and white Z cars available to buy. They're only on
mad, isn't it?
YouTube. Yeah, I looked. I tried to buy them. The only thing I could find on Amazon where someone had put them on a DVD-R and had been selling them, but it said they were out of stock. So clearly it was an illegal sale,
Right.
So, yeah. Well, okay, I absolutely loved this. I guess I loved it because I knew what Z-Cars was.
Right.
And so it was fascinating because, of course, I was too young to have watched this first episode. So it was fascinating to see how it all started. I actually thought it was amazing drama. I loved the dialogue. It was so authentic and I liked the fact that it wasn't a procedural story, that it was just a story about getting to know people. And it's
But you had that ability to know who these people were already.
Not really, because I am too young, funnily enough, to have ever seen that team. I mean, Barlow and Watts lasted right till the end of the show, I think. No, not to the end of the show, but certainly into the 70s. But the others, Fancy Smith, Brian Blessed there, outside a pub that was playing music that was used in the first episode of Doctor Who. Did you get that?
No.
John Smith in the comment.
Yes.
I thought, stop BBC pop music. They put that on, and Colin Welland, who, mostly people know him as a screenplay writer. He wrote Chariots of Fire. And James Ellis, he did last, I think, probably to the end of the series or very...
It was a long old run.
I met Jimmy Ellis on several occasions because his son, who sadly is no longer with us, and neither is Jimmy, but, I knew his son at drama school. And so Jimmy Ellis would occasionally turn up. And the way he plays the character in Z-Cars, that's exactly what he's like.
Just him.
I tell you, so it is. So it's, and it's just, and you struggled to understand what he was saying. It's really great. You tell him what you said there. Come on now. And it's, he was just like that. So when he appeared in Doctor Who in Battlefield, playing an Englishman, that was really quite shocking because I thought Jimmy Ellis doesn't sound like that. What's going on here? I thought it was. Really a really interesting historical document as well.
Sorry.
Bless you. A dog has just coughed. Oh no, it was Benji sneezing. I thought a really interesting historical element for precisely the very dodgy and disturbing reason you mentioned, Shelley, where there's the spousal abuse, where the woman has this whacking great bruise on her, and we're not meant to laugh at it, and she doesn't mind, and she says it was an accident. But it sounds like her and her husband have had a bit of a row, and she threw something at him.
Boiling something that he had to dodge or whatever.
So he attacked her back, you see. So it's like these are really rough people who go about their daily life by being quite harsh to each other and physically harsh. But she is so... passionate towards him as well, and so
kissing scenes.
Yeah.
It was very full on, wasn't it?
He couldn't close his mouth. Even when he was kissing her forehead, he was like,
Well, yeah, and they would have.
Gross.
Jeremy Kemp, of course, who played that part, he turns up in Star Trek: The Next Generation as Picard's brother. Do you remember that? Right?
Yes.
He's a brilliant actor, and funnily enough, he used to when he was at drama school, he went to the same drama school as me, obviously many years before me, and he stayed in the same theatrical, as it were, digs that I did. So my landlady, Mama G, everyone called her, she lived in this house with a really narrow, long corridor, and she was almost wider than the corridor. And she used to waddle to the door, and you could hear her coming because her breathing was so... Jeremy Kemp stayed in those digs, and she used to say, "Oh, my Jeremy, yes, we used to say to Jeremy." She was a real South London girl, Very tragically, she had a stroke at the dinner table once, yes. She recovered, though.
Were you there at the time?
Yes, I was sitting next to her. I grabbed her hand as she collapsed into her dinner. Yeah. Anyway, a little bit of human drama for. But I like all that harshness. You as a spectator sport and looking at it as a historical document, and obviously it's inappropriate and unpleasant, but I liked the harshness of it. As I find it fascinating, the difference in human behaviour and what is acceptable and what isn't. And to give you an example of something completely nowhere near as offensive, when you watch old documentary footage, archive footage of streets in London in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, the difference in behaviour you notice is that no one was scared of being run over, and swathes of people would just be walking in the road with cars shooting past them. You know, and
Yes,
and you know, our generation is the my generation is the result of public information from the government telling you that cars are dangerous. And they didn't think they were in those days. So it's really, you see what I mean? And it's that kind of shift in public perception about things, and how they would easily just make a trivial passing wry comment about a man hitting a woman. And that bruise is enormous.
Yeah, it's
You
like
know,
the whole side of her face.
Yeah, I mean, it's not... I mean, they would have made it that big to make it obvious on the small televisions as well.
Yeah.
Small black and white televisions, which some of them were like looking through periscopes, I think, you know. They were so tiny. I remember, you know, my grandparents had such a tiny television set. But anyway, so I loved it. I thought it was excellent writing, very, very much of its time. I don't excuse any of those morally questionable things, but fascinating to watch, I found.
Well, like I really like the last sort of segment, as it were, with the chap who hadn't taken his pills. It was very interesting the way it was sort of handled in that, and you know, with all the people crowding around the house and him sort of saying, you know, don't stay back, you know, go about your business.
You come in here, but you all leave. Wait, what are you doing? You come here. I was like, do you want him to go or do you want him to stay?
But you know, he's handled very well, and that guy who played it really well was sort of troubled because he wasn't bad. He wasn't doing it. You know, he wasn't being an axe-wielding homicidal maniac. He was just so confused, and he played it incredibly well. And you could see in his face he just wasn't quite. Yeah, it was very interesting. But I thought that was quite a risky sort of business to actually to put on television at that time.
And it was interesting to show, you know, those scenes were saying that Jeremy Kemp's character, Steele, I think the character's name was. I mean, I don't ever remember him. I don't ever remember him being in Z-Cars because he'd left long before, you know, I was aware of the show. They show him being really sensitive, and the idea is that character is a very oversensitive man. He's kind of, you know what I mean, they mock him really, and yet he is the one who's hit his wife. So I like that sort of that contradiction and that no easy conclusions made really, and you can't write drama like that now because everyone is so keen to make moral judgments and stand on one side of an argument or another. And it reminds you of a time where people actually, funnily enough, were a little bit more willing to look at any individual situation on its specific merits and not say, I do not agree with that kind of thing, therefore I will boycott and cancel this show. That's what people do nowadays. There's something that offends me in this, therefore everything about it is bad. And I think that is a...
I think
it's a shame we can't be more specific in our views.
Well, when it comes to historical content, you know, I'm a great believer in kind of watching it as it is. You don't have to agree with it, but I think it's important for it to be available to watch. You know, that it makes you think, and it's, you know, and in this one, it really shows the different attitudes that we had. There's so many, and probably watching more Z-Cars, you'd see that running through with loads of other threads of daily life. But just the way times and society and people have changed is really interesting. And the fact that this is on telly at this, you know, on TV, 1962, people sitting down watching this in the evenings, I think is actually, that's a step forward and revolutionary within itself, because it's quite hard hitting for telly. You know,
I remember,
that
you know,
time.
in the 70s and people saying, oh, Z-Cars are so trailblazing, and me thinking, it's just the softest, ridiculously low-key show. And then the Sweeney was the next big revolution in cop shows for British TV, which you've never seen the Sweeney, have you?
No.
Oh, you're missing out. It's glorious.
Well, that's more London orientated, so not so many difficult accents. Although the Sweeney, I think, did get dubbed in America because American audiences,
The Sweeney,
in the 70s, they found that difficult. But the funny thing is, what I was going to say was I thought of it as a kind of soft show and not that challenging. That even when you watch those 70s episodes, I bought a DVD box set of them, and they're really downbeat and depressing. They're so
it's grim.
And I don't remember it being like that as a kid. You know, I just remember it being, oh, well, that's sort of like life. But, you know, the 70s and the 60s for ordinary people weren't these psychedelic glam times. They were wretched times, really. And the triviality and the depression of some of those 70s episodes of Z Cars, they're quite a difficult watch, really. You know.
Well, I was watching Dixon of Dock Green, and I was watching one of the later ones where he was, you know, a sergeant and that, and it was right in the dead centre of the 70s. And I thought that watching it, I thought, gosh, it's very grim, and it showed sort of. Because, of course, there were so many, you know, new builds and things, but there were quite a lot of derelict buildings in the 1970s. It was still that sort of post-war sort of landscape. And it's really interesting seeing that.
Especially in London. I mean, London was devastated by the Blitz and did not recover for decades. Yeah.
But you know, it was sort of this particular episode. I think a body was found, and it was a sort of wasteland, or a girl went missing. I can't remember. I've watched quite a few of them now, but it was sort of just this empty wasteland with old buildings and stuff. And you think, wow, this was not. Then it got ruined, I think, because the villain was played by Kurt the Chef, who's fantastic. But you know Kurt the Chef from Fawlty Towers.
Oh, right.
Manuel, I love him, Manuel. He is so beautiful. And I saw he was in it. But of course, he is a fantastic actor. He plays a Greek gangster sort of villain. There's a great bit in there. They say, and I said, "Oh, how much is he paying them?" And he says, "He doesn't need to pay them. They respect him enough that money doesn't come into the equation." So he's a big old villain. Because when I look at him, I just think of him as the drunk chef from Fawlty Towers. But yeah, grim old 70s. But you know, Z Cars, I'll give it a 4, because actually what you can see here, whilst I will be honest and stand with Shed, it's a bit too talky for me for something I would normally watch, because it's a lot of kind of people just talking. But at the same time, when you read between lines and see the significance of what's going on here and what they're actually doing and what it's gone on, you know, I've got a lot of time for Z Cars anyway. It gets a 4 out for me, because I think it's a really impressive bit of telly.
Well, I'm not going to be as generous, only because I have one thing to base it on, and that's this episode.
Of course.
I don't have anything else, so I'm going to give it a 2.
Hold on a minute. You're saying that you rank My Mother the Car over Z Cars?
Yes.
Two car-related programs.
Okay, let's not forget the nostalgia aspect of how we watch old TV shows. My nostalgia and love for the episode of My Mother the Car that we watched was that I have fond feelings for Jerry Van Dyke.
Yeah.
So I'm drawing off of that. This is nothing to me.
Yes, there's no cultural connection, is there?
Of course.
Nothing to me. Like,
well, you
zero.
say that you made the cars. Ford Zephyrs and Ford Zodiacs are American cars.
Okay.
I don't think that's going to be enough, Benji.
No, not enough.
No, something
but
tells me
funny
you're
enough, I went back onto newspapers to see what the buzz was around the time that it came out, because I do know that it was something that was different than anything else that had ever been aired on TV before. And funny, the only things I found was that the police were upset.
Yeah, of course they were. The police had never been portrayed like this before.
Well, what had happened was the producers put a credit, I guess, at the end of the show, saying, thanks to the assistance of the Lancashire Police Department for all your help in creating this show. And they were like, oh, hold on a second. And so I found a newspaper article from...
this is fascinating.
From January 10th, 1962, which was a week, 8 days after it aired, because the first aired on the 2nd. Police still unhappy about Z Cars. The BBC television production Z Cars, produced in conjunction with the Lancashire Police, was again criticized last night by the Chief Constable, blah-de-blah St. Johnston, after the showing of the second installment. He said, "We are still not happy about the way in which county police officers are portrayed in some parts of the story and talking and behaving while doing their work. Subject to this qualification, I think the play was well acted and well produced." After the first of the series last week, the chief constable conferred with the BBC and the credit to the police was withdrawn from the film. So they raised such a hubbub that the production company had to take off the saying, "Hey, yeah, they're a part of this," because they were like, "Oh, no."
Even though they must have been to start with, they just didn't like how it turned out.
Right, but that's how usually it goes.
And of course, you look at it, and you realise that the police's behaviour at that time would have been far worse than is portrayed in Z-Cars. The language would have been worse, the actions would have been harsher. What they were uncomfortable with is up until that point on British TV, the police were always your friends. The police were always wiser than white, never made a mistake, always got their man. And Z-Cars is not that show. Z-Cars said, these people are fallible. They're just like you. They're just like you people in the community as well.
Yeah,
even
they're
though
real people.
Ultimately they're very sympathetic towards the police and show them trying their best and doing their best, but they show them as fallible human beings, and the police were not used to that kind of portrayal. I mean, when the Sweeney came round, the police were saying we prefer Z-Cars. They wanted Z-Cars rather than the Sweeney, because in the Sweeney, Jack Regan used to burst into people's bedrooms and say, "Get your trousers on, you're nicked."
Yeah, big on. It is. It's very. But of course, like all these shows, the one thing that we have to mention as well, though, is that actually, the armed, the armed and the not the armed forces, but the forces in general, they get a huge recruitment boost from these types of programs because people see it and think, "I'll join the police. That's a job for me." It's the same with things like London's Burning, Casualty, and shows like that. They get huge recruitment boosts through that. Soldier's another one. Huge people wanting to join the British Army from
Huge
that.
people, like 8 foot tall.
Big fat men,
That's a good guy to be in the army then.
Well, yeah, well, quite. But it's...
Keep down low.
So although they might disagree with it, I can imagine that there might be some people, for example, people who feel like that this isn't something they could ever imagine doing, and now thinking, "Oh, that's I live in a street like that. That's I've got that's what my house looks like. I could do this. This is actually something I could do."
Interesting.
And so it, in some respects, it helps them. We don't have many programs of force-based programs anymore, do we?
No, it's not a popular thing to do anymore. Interestingly, I did watch another, obviously not the second episode because it seems not to exist, but one of the very early episodes, Shelley. And just from what you're saying, I think you would have found this equally frustrating because it's not about a police procedural thing at all. It's Colin Welland's characters in this one. He isn't in the earlier episodes, and it's all about his mum revealing to him over breakfast, which is actually an evening meal because he's been working a night shift, telling him that she and her father want to move to the seaside and he's just got to move out. And he's devastated by this, and he runs across town to go and speak to Lynch, the Irish guy, who's got a woman back at his flat, and so he interrupts them because he's depressed, because he doesn't know, for the first time in his life, he's going to have to fend for himself. And
he's a grown man,
yeah,
who's a police officer,
yeah, but
he's afraid that his mommy and daddy are leaving him.
Yeah, but he's a youngster. Yeah, exactly. But what I mean is, it's a complex drama about the difference between the tough guy who's going to go and grab someone and shove him in his Z car and rough him up, and exactly as you said, his mummy and daddy are going, and he's all frightened and scared about it and doesn't know what to do. And I thought this, I can see that would have been an equally frustrating episode for you because it's not about police work.
Yeah, but at least that's a bit of a plot line. This particular episode was just your basic, okay, we're going to introduce everybody to these characters and show them how they're going to get together.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I just thought that I loved the way it was done. The whole business about how they were going to recruit them, the whole process of how they suggested people that their superior officers didn't like, and how, Watts got volunteered for setting up this crime unit. He's saying, yeah, we should have a crime unit, blah, blah. And he said, yeah, and you're going to run it. What? Don't worry, I've already written your letter of acceptance and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was so beautifully told. I didn't think it was I felt there was a story. I felt it was an interesting story. And don't forget, as I said, I didn't, apart from Lynch, who was a desk sergeant by the time I started watching Z-Cars, and there was very little reason, by the way, for it to be called Z-Cars later, because they didn't use Zephyrs anymore.
They didn't use Ford Zephyrs, yeah.
No.
Would
They
it be
used
old
Panda
Escorts?
Cars. They should have called it Panda Cars instead, which is not quite such an exciting title. But I didn't have any emotional investment already in these characters. I didn't know them.
But you did in the show.
What do you mean?
Emotional investment. You said you had watched it. You were familiar with it. So
No, what I mean is the characters
had
in the...
zero.
No, you're misunderstanding me. The characters in this first episode, I had not, apart from Lynch, I'd not really encountered them before. So me watching
Right.
this was the first time I'd got to know them, and I found that, that engaged me. I wasn't... You see what I mean? It's not some...
I think it must have just, to be honest, it must have just been a language barrier thing for me. I probably
absolutely.
missed out a lot on the connectivity of all of it.
I did think while I was watching it, I really did think, I thought, it suddenly hit me about 15 minutes in, I thought, Shelley is going to feel like she is watching a foreign language program. I really did think that,
Yeah.
And their modes of behavior were so sort of spiky and difficult. They're all very difficult with each other all the time, weren't they? They're harsh people.
Yeah.
They're not instantly lovable at all.
It's not a
Yeah, like
lovey-dovey
there's
sort
this
of
scene in the
atmosphere.
kitchen when Lynch and the other guy, the wife beater, he drank all of his tea
Yeah.
and then took all of his sugar
Yeah.
and stuff, and it was just like you could see like that relationship. I don't know, it was just I was like, am I supposed to be laughing? Like, what's happening here? Like it just was very foreign to me, to be honest, to use that word.
Yeah. I don't think you were supposed to be laughing. I think, they're tough people who just play tough with each other. I mean, not the kind of people that I can't relate to people like that in my personal life. People who just want to take the mickey all the time and be horrible to each other. I don't find that funny, but a lot of people do relate to each other like that. Sorry, Benji.
I think we should just add a laugh track behind this episode
Oh my God.
and see what happens.
That would be really bad taste, wouldn't it? That would be awful.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Gosh.
So,
Well, there
Nick,
we
what
have
are you
it,
giving
you know.
it?
Oh, well, I will give it
You'll
5
give it a
stars
5.
because I really adored it. I really adored it.
Wow.
you would.
Okay.
I was so disappointed I couldn't watch the next episode. Yeah.
Well, let us know what you
Interesting.
guys think.
Yeah.
Let us know. Send in how many stars are you going to give it? Obviously,
Exclamation marks.
exclamation marks, stars, pieces of coal, you name it, whatever it is.
One
Let
of
us know
these.
because, Jack leads. Let us know because it's divided the Benji and Nick show opinions poll.
It's really interesting.
And if you're
isn't it?
American, I would also
Shelley,
like to
you've-
hear
you've-
your opinion and see if it's just an American thing, that it's...
Watch how they all gang
Yeah.
up on us now.
Or they all say, no,
I'm
Shelley,
sure
you're
it's a
completely
huge
wrong.
factor. No,
Maybe.
they're not going to say
I doubt
that,
it.
Shelley.
They're
No,
not gonna say
it is a
that,
huge
no.
factor.
Yeah.
It is a huge factor, I think. Yeah.
So, Shelley, you've got something for us
Yes.
next week, haven't you?
Yeah.
Next
Yes.
week, we had a show that was recommended to us on our Twitter, which is at Benji and Nick. In case you haven't followed us on Twitter, go ahead and follow us on Twitter.
Just writing that down.
Mark Bettisworth suggested the 1980 British anthology series Hammer House of Horror. And he specifically
Great suggestion.
suggested the Peter Cushing episode, which is called The Silent Scream, and it is episode 7 of the 13 total episodes. So I'm very, very excited
They
about
made
this
13.
because I love anthology stuff and I love horror, so I'm really excited about it.
And I have to just mention, thank you so much for introducing me to Truth Seekers.
That was Carl. that he brought it up.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Carl
Carl.
Scott, thank you.
Wow, what an incredible... Have you seen it, Benji?
I'm not at the time, but I
thoroughly
shall.
It's incredible, isn't it? And you know, I love the way, Shelley, you said that you watched it and then you just immediately watched it again.
Right again.
Because it's that good. It's that good.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. Lovely
It
series.
ticked all my boxes.
It's superb, isn't it? Yeah.
So yes, that's over on Amazon if anybody wants to check it out. It's Nick Frost and sort of Malcolm McDowell, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Such a shame they're not going to make any more. And I
and
kind of broke your heart by
dropped
telling you that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Well,
was very
Steph looked it up and
sad.
said, "Oh yeah, Nick Frost says it's been cancelled." Oh,
thanks.
great. So I was just at episode 2 at that
Nick.
point. I thought, oh.
Yeah.
Do I
Well,
even bother
I mean,
continuing?
it ends kind of.
It's a good ending.
Yeah. So it's not like somebody's about to fall off a cliff, literally.
It
So,
never
yes.
disappoints. The only negative thing I'd say about it is that my wife didn't particularly like it. And so when I attempted to watch, I watched episode 1 and then I rewatched it with her and I didn't enjoy it because she was just sitting there kind of going, you know how when people become uncomfortable sitting because they're not enjoying something and they're not, she wasn't trying to show that she was bored, but I thought, God, if you were as riveted to this as I was, you would not want to move. You wouldn't think about being uncomfortable.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And she yawned a couple of times as well. I thought, right, you're not watching any of this anymore because you're
Not
spoiling
today.
my enjoyment of it.
That's off the list of shows we watch together.
Exactly. Oh, dear. I mean,
Back to
she said,
spring
no, I'm
watch.
happy to watch it. I just don't love it. I thought, what? You can only love this show.
Divorce.
There you go. I've also
All right.
rewatched Dangerous Knowledge and The Hanged Man.
The Hanged Man.
2 British shows from the middle 70s. Just really crummily done, but absolutely great writing and acting, particularly The Hanged Man, which is so... The way it's made is the old-fashioned multi-camera way, but, in the centre of it, you've got Colin Blakely and Michael Williams, who are just 2 incredible giants of British acting. Colin Blakely had a huge film career, and they're just amazing. They chew the furniture up together, Anyway, sorry, back to...
Create a huge
Okay.
mess.
So yes, Hammer House of Horror,
forward
which
to
I like saying. Hammer House of Horror.
what was the episode called again?
It's called The Silent Scream. Yeah.
That was me, silent screaming.
That was you,
me,
Silent Scream. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We'll be seeing you next time. Look after yourselves, stay safe, and don't let the bed bugs bite. Ow! From me, Benji B, it's good be.
For me, Shelley Dean, it's goodbye.
Oh, bye. Pressing stop now. Ka-chink.